Good afternoon and welcome to Soft Skills, Hardest Consequences. This is the third webinar in our second Lunchtime Lightbulb series, getting the most out of your people and projects. And we're so pleased to have you join us. Welcome to those of you who are newcomers, and of course welcome back to those of you who have joined us before. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Sarah Sabel, and once again I'm joined by Michael Meir, Director and Lecturer here at Cal. Hello Michael.
Hello Sarah, hello everybody.
Now before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping items. This webinar will run for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your questions at the end. I will open up the floor, the second half, to your questions. So if at any time during the presentation you would like to ask Michael a question, do just jot it down in your questions or chat box there on your dashboard, and I will read them out so that Michael can answer them for everybody to hear. This webinar will be available for you to keep. I'll make sure that you have the presentation emailed to you along with the link to our YouTube channel. Now, as far back as 2006, a major handbrake on competitiveness was recognised as a dark shadow of deep-seated cultural prejudice threatens to limit the competitiveness of UK organisations. This prejudice takes the form of a profound bias in management and executive circles and boardrooms favouring so-called hard skills and knowledge, such as finance, technology and legal, against the allegedly soft skills, which include the ability to manage working relationships. This bias is reflected in the focus on hard metrics, with much less focus on the means of achieving and the hard figures through people. Ironically, for many managers, the soft skills are hard skills and definitely the hardest to master. Ask anyone who has had to manage change, deal with organisational politics, or build a disparate group of people into an effective team. Soft skills are essentially the skills of relationship management and creativity, underpinned by emotional intelligence. These include the ability to empathise with others, manage conflict, cope with ambiguity and paradox, and navigate a route through complex interpersonal and strategic scenarios. Managers have been trained to look for evidence and data as the basis for decision-making. Business cultures have conventionally relegated emotions and social values to the sidelines, resulting in managers putting people-related issues and decisions into the not important or the too difficult basket. Many lack the skills to help them deal with issues relating to motivation, management and development of human beings. Without the ability to communicate and engage effectively with staff, managers are lucky if they can implement today's schedule and most unlikely to be able to implement tomorrow's strategic plan. Without self-awareness, flexibility and resilience, managers will keep doing what they've always done and they may continue to get results. That's not the issue. The issue is what results should they have achieved given the assets entrusted to them? How much discretionary effort did their people put in, and what premium did they achieve by having fully engaged staff? Soft skills are key to attracting and retaining talent and optimising productivity, the source of future competitive advantage. Now, Michael, before you get started, I might quickly run a poll to see who we've got in the room today. So in just a second, you will see on your screen the question. Based on your work experience, how do you rate the importance of soft skills, with the numbers 5 through 1, from crucial to important, neutral, a little important, not important? Just wait for our polls to come through. Hopefully we can all see that. We've got a few coming through for crucial and a few coming through for important, Michael, so far. And all the votes are in, so a majority of people are saying that it's crucial. Does that surprise you, Michael?
It surprises me overall, but it doesn't surprise me in the audience. So that's something there. So we've got an interesting topic for today, Sarah. So look, let's get stuck into the hard aspects of soft skills. Today, let's look at some of the soft aspects to business, and what I'd like to cover as we do this is firstly emotional intelligence, leadership and profitability, employee engagement and organisational effectiveness, ethics and productivity, soft skills defined and tested, and we'll finish, of course, with your questions. Topic number 1, let's get into that. Way back in March 2000, Daniel Goleman wrote in an article, Leadership That Gets Results, about a study by the late David McClelland, who was a noted Harvard University psychologist, who found that leaders with strengths in 6 crucial emotional intelligence competencies were far more effective than peers who lacked these strengths. Now, for instance, when he analysed the performance of division heads at a global food and beverage company, he found that among leaders with this crucial mass of competencies, 87% were placed in the top third of annual salary bonuses based on their business performance. More telling than this was that their divisions, on average, outperformed yearly revenue targets by 15 to 20%. Those executives who lacked emotional intelligence were rarely rated as outstanding in their annual business performance reviews, and their divisions underperformed by an average of almost 20%. As a result of this seminal study, researchers and business analysts alike started to pay serious attention to emotional intelligence as an indicator of exceptional performance. Now, look, let me show you what I mean by exceptional performance. According to a 2012 study by emotional intelligence organisation 6 Seconds, managers and leaders with higher levels of emotional intelligence generated increased performance, profits, and employee satisfaction for the companies that they ran. The study found that emotional intelligence scores predict 47% of the variation on the manager or leader's performance, 76% of the variation in the organisation's engagement is predicted by emotional intelligence, and organisations with more engaged emotionally intelligence experienced a 63% drop in turnover whilst also seeing increased profits. Now, Mr. Liano Gianni, I think I said that really well, didn't I? Did I get that? The professor who headed this study stated, and I quote here, "The workplace climate is a driving force in how employees engaged in their daily activities. When factors such as trust and teamwork are present, the research shows that the company generates much better results." So the conclusion is simple. If we want business success, we need to equip leaders with the skills to make an environment where employees can work effectively. A 3-year study of Amadori, a supplier of McDonald's franchise in Europe, assessed links between emotional intelligence, individual performance, organisational engagement, and organisational performance. Emotional intelligence was found to predict 47% of the variation in managers' performance management scores. Emotional intelligence was also massively correlated with increased organisational engagement, with 76% of the variation in engagement predicted by a manager's emotional intelligence score, or what is referred to as the EI quotient. Finally, plants with higher organisational engagement achieved higher bottom line results, building a link between EQ, engagement, and performance. During this period, employee turnover also dropped by 63%. So, those organisations whose managers scored higher in EI also had a much more engaged workforce than those who scored low, and this, of course, makes perfect sense. The more a manager cares for, motivates and engages their employees, then the higher the commensurate level of employee engagement is. Now, this is compelling, but I think this graph on your screen from Towers Watson, who completed an exhaustive 12-month study across 50 global companies, sums up the link between employee engagement and business improvement very well. So well, in fact, that, look, I don't really think it needs further comment on it. You can see the organisations with highly engaged employees in the yellow or mustard colour and the positive growth side of performance, while those in the low engagement are seen here in the orange on the negative side of the graph.
Michael, this certainly makes a lot of sense to me, and I can understand why the level of engagement, employee engagement, would rise in a company that has more emotionally intelligent managers. Although one wonders what we'd call the unemotionally intelligent managers. Stupid comes to mind, but I guess that's not really appropriate here, is it?
Well, it'd be interesting to hear what their staff call them. There might be stronger terms than that, yeah?
Most definitely. Michael, I was reading Tom Peters' book, In Search of Excellence, and he had an interesting figure. He said that success in business today is 15% technology and 85% emotional intelligence. But before we go on, do you think you could give us a quick review of just what emotional intelligence is?
Yes, Sarah. EI is about our ability to recognise and understand our own emotions and those of others, being aware of how we impact others through our actions, and managing our emotions well, our self-regulation in ourselves and also in our relationships. So you can see just how important it is for managers and indeed all leaders in the workplace who want to get the very best they can out of their people, and who also want to keep them and not lose them to other organisations. It's crucial. You may recall an earlier webinar we did on employee engagement where we found that 80% of turnover is directly related to unsatisfactory relationships with one's boss or manager. That was 20 years of research went into that. A recent Gallup organisational study of approximately 1 million workers found that the number one reason for people leaving their jobs is because of bad bosses.
Great, thanks Michael for that very quick summary of emotional intelligence and its link to management practice. Let's move on to our second topic for today, employee engagement and organisational effectiveness. Now, as we saw a minute ago, the Gallup organisation studied 2 million employees at 700 companies and found that how long an employee stays at a company and how productive she or he is there is determined by their relationship with their immediate supervisor. Another study quantified this effect further. Spherion, hope I got that right, Michael.
Close enough.
A staffing and consulting firm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, found that only 11% of the employees who rated their bosses as excellent said that they were likely to look for a different job in the next year. However, 40% of those who rated their bosses as poor said they were likely to leave. In other words, people with good bosses are 4 times less likely to leave than those with poor bosses. Similarly, a conclusion reached by Roger Herman is that 3/4 of people who voluntarily leave jobs don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. Blessington White are a US-based global research and consultancy practice who have researched and reported on employee engagement for more than a decade, and they say in their 2013 report, we believe that aligning employees' values, goals and aspirations with those of the organisation is the best method for achieving the sustainable employee engagement required for an organisation to thrive. Full engagement represents an alignment of maximum job satisfaction, so that is, I like my work and do it well, with maximum job contribution. That is, I help achieve the goals of my organisation. The report goes on to say that engaged employees are not just committed, they are not just passionate or proud, they have a line of sight on their own future and on the organisation's mission and goals. They are enthused and in gear, using their talents and discretionary effort to make a difference in their employer's quest for sustainable business success. Here is what engaged employees say matters to them. Recognition for good work, being part of a shared vision, a manager or supervisor who cares about them as people, a manager who has an understanding attitude, being kept informed of happenings in the department and organisation, clarity for what is expected of them, cooperative work teams, investment in their growth and development. They want their opinions to count and they want to have adequate resources to be successful in their jobs. To address all these points requires a high emotional intelligence that promotes engagement, trust and loyalty. Michael, I can really identify with this list, and it reinforces the earlier quote from Blessington. But how do you actually measure employee engagement?
Good question, Sharon, and you certainly can. Blessington White says there's 5 categories of employee engagement, whilst Gallup uses 3. Obviously, they don't quite line up, but for our purposes, it's here. What's important is the statistics. Now, Gallup, with its 3 characteristics or categories, says about 18% of people are engaged, 62% not engaged, and 21% actively disengaged. Blessington White, with its 5 categories, says engaged 37%, almost engaged 27%, crash and burners 10%, hamsters and honeymooners 15%, and the disengaged 10%. Now, as the Blessington White measures are more expansive, let's look at a little more of the detail in each category means so that you can get a better feel for them. Sarah, would you like to take us through some of the levels that you can see there? There's engaged, almost engaged. I'll do the honeymooners and the crash and bashes. Would you like to do the disengaged?
Sure. So the engaged, these employees are at the apex where personal and organisational interests align. They contribute fully to the success of the organisation and find great satisfaction in their work. The almost engaged are a critical group. These employees are among the high performers and are reasonably satisfied with their job. They may not have consistent great days at work, but they know what these days look like.
Let's have a look at the honeymooners and hamsters. That's an interesting description of people. New to the organisation or their role, and they're happy to be there. They've yet to find their stride or clearly understand how they can best contribute. And it's important to shows a priority to move them out of this temporary holding area to become fully aligned and with their productivity. Of course, hamsters may be working hard, but are in effect spinning wheels, working on non-essential tasks, contributing really little to the success of the organisation. Some may even be hiding out or cooled up in their cedar shavings, content with their position. Retired in place is the expression. If organisations don't deal with them, other employees will have to work harder and may even grow resentful. Let's have a look. I'll do the crash and burners, and if you do the disengaged. Disengaged. Crash and burners, delusioned, potentially exhausted. These employees are top producers who, achieving their best definition of success and satisfaction, they can be people who once were achieving a lot. They can now become bitterly vocal executives, about people making bad decisions, or the colleagues are not pulling their weight. They may leave, but they are more likely to take a breather and work less hard, slipping down the contribution scale to become disengaged. When they do, they often bring down those who are around them.
Hence the crash and burn title. So the disengaged are the most disengaged employees didn't start out as bad apples. They still may not be. They are the most disconnected from organisational priorities, often feel underutilised, and are clearly not getting what they need from work. They're likely to be sceptical and can indulge in contagious negativity. If left alone, the disengaged are likely to collect a paycheck while complaining or looking for their next job. If they can't be coached or aligned to high levels of engagement, their exit benefits everyone, including themselves.
Yeah. Sarah, let's have a look at some recent Australian data. Now, the Australian Institute of Management, in its VT Employment Engagement Survey, it's quite current, said that only 57% of management listens to employee issues and concerns, and that 50% also said that their executives and senior management team cultivated a good workplace culture. That's only 50%. Workplaces with these characteristics are hardly going to be running at optimised productivity. Now, let's go back to the Gallup data again. In this 2008 study, it'd still be fairly accurate. So let's have a look at what it means with regard to tenure and engagement. This graph shows that the longer-term staff are more likely to be the most disengaged. But it's sad to see that 13% get actively disengaged within a year.
Michael, I find this graph quite staggering. If I'm reading it right, then for new staff in their first year or less of employment, 80% of all new staff are not engaged at all. Only 19% of all new employees are engaged at work.
Yep.
And it looks like this figure picks up a bit over the next few years, but then by 10 years, only 6% of all staff are engaged at work. That's staggering.
And frightening and sadly true.
So does this mean we need to get rid of all staff who have been in the company for 10 years or more, Michael?
No. But we need to work out how we're going to manage them. Well, Sarah, I know you're only joking there, and remember it's not all that cut and dried. But this graph gives us the worst case scenario, but there are also degrees of engagement and disengagement. So it might be quite as bad as this graph makes it out to seem, but it's still not pretty, and something needs to be done about it pretty urgently. Remember, these figures are current Australian figures, so they reflect what's happening in workplaces all over Australia as we speak, which nicely brings us to our next topic, which is engagement and productivity. As this diagram shows, the more engaged your staff are, the more productive they'll be. Does beg the question a bit, doesn't it? Then, why then are they being paid the same money? Now, Sarah, you're going to have to take over here for a minute, okay, because my flu.
Michael is very unwell today. He's being a trooper, Michael. Now, productivity, or the lack thereof, is a critical issue facing Australia. Did you know that Australia's productivity rate has dropped right off? We were going well for about a decade or so, but this last decade, since around the year 2000, has seen a continuing decline. It's interesting to note that the Australian government's much touted and quoted report on the Asian century notes that most of what is required to lift Australia's productivity is in the hands of individuals, especially the managers of businesses. It goes on to say that productivity will emerge through innovation in business processes within firms and more sophisticated relationships. To truly unlock productivity, we need workplace leadership skills and a culture that encourages innovation and employee engagement. The single biggest factor here is twofold: the engaged employee and the manager as an effective, efficient leader of people. The two groups who are best placed to have maximum impact on the organisation's performance are the frontline managers and supervisors and the employees. So you can clearly see here the link between employee engagement and emotional intelligence. Studies have shown that Australia ranks well behind other advanced economies in management skills and capability, particularly when it comes to engaging workforces and instilling a talent mindset. Michael, there's been a lot of argument and debate about the Australian economy and where it's heading, and the fact that so much of the core work that was done previously in Australian workplaces is now being sourced offshore because it is much cheaper. Yet from the figures we've seen, it seems that we could increase our efficiency and productivity by more fully engaging our workforces. And we can do this by training our managers, supervisors and team leaders in the soft skills that build EE and boost productivity. It seems quite simple to grasp and fix. So why don't companies address these issues right now?
Sure, you're right in one sense, but of course nothing's ever quite as simple as it first looks. Remember, you opened today's webinar with this quote: "A dark shadow of deep-seated cultural prejudice threatens to limit the competitiveness of UK organisations." Well, there's just no doubt that this prejudice takes the form of profound bias in management and executive circles and boardrooms, favouring so-called hard skills of knowledge such as finance, technology, legal, against the allegedly soft skills, which include the ability to manage working relationships. Despite all the research and the overwhelming body of evidence to support it, the business culture here in Australia, and indeed many countries around the world, still doesn't recognise or accept the critically important role of soft skills, which and the role they play in improving productivity and increasing business success. Earlier in the year, or earlier, Gallup noted that by applying standard utility analysis methods, their statisticians found that a 4.1 increase in output per worker could be attributed to eliminating active disengagement from the workplace. This 4.1% increase applied against the Australian 117,208 average output figure amounts to $4,768 per person per year in our workforce, or $42.1 billion overall, simply by getting improvement by eliminating active disengagement. Now, Ernst Young, in their Pulse survey of 2011, found that we waste 18% of our day. Now, that amounts to a cool $109 billion a year. It'll be interesting to measure the impact of disengagement on productivity. Now, let's have a look at a real-life example, if we could, of lost productivity and the cost associated with disengagement. Can you call up the spreadsheet now, Sarah?
I think so. There we go.
All right. Now, look, I'll take the group through this. This is a real study. So this is an organisation of 1,000 employees. Average person is on about 50 grand a year, 23% on costs. So we see grossed up 61,500 with an average cost of $31 an hour. You'll see here that they're taking 11 public holidays, 20 annual leaves, sick days about 5, roster days off 5, so available 220 days a year. 38-hour week, pretty hard workers, this group, pretty hard workers. Only taking 15-minute lunch breaks, tea breaks just 20 minutes, toilet breaks 20 minutes, socialising, and a bit of other. So, look, out of the 8-hour, 7 hours, they're getting down to about effective time here of 6 hours a day available. Now,
sorry, Michael, I think I'm just having a bit of problem with my screen there. Hopefully we can
it's all working?
Running back.
All right, well, I'll move on quickly.
Yep.
So here's where we get to the nub of it. In this workplace, highly engaged was 9%, engaged 18%, 47, 17, 9. Their productivity, now remember there's a big difference between activity and productivity. Productivity is what you actually achieve. Now you can see the groups here. Now you might think that doesn't really mean much, but when we get to the bottom line, now it does. That profile is costing around $60,000 a day over a year, 13 million, and effectively it's squandered the productivity of 217 people per year. Now, broad question, Sarah. Do you reckon engagement, or the lack of it, is costing that organisation a small fortune?
It looks like it.
Yeah, it is. So, Sarah, whoa.
I do apologise if we've been having just a few technical difficulties there, but I will make sure that these two spreadsheets that Michael is referring to are made available for you as well to keep.
I'm sincerely hoping, Sarah, my flu hasn't infected the...
It looks like it might have, Michael. So, Michael, what about the causes of the 18% waste? What are they? What can we do about them?
Sarah, I'm only going to touch on them lightly today, but I think they can be subject of another webinar, if that's okay, particularly around the solutions. You can see on the pie chart on the left that whilst 58% of the average day is work that adds real value to the organisation, 18% is wasted time and effort. Now let's look at the pie chart on the right, impacts on productivity. Yes, you get the biggest two by far are people management issues and organisational structure design and operating model. In combination, that's 77%. And these are both soft skills.
So it's true what you say, Michael, that culture and structure do in fact eat strategy for breakfast.
Oh, Sarah, yes, you're right again. Soft skills have the hardest consequences. As we've already seen, that's $4,768 per employee per year blown on disengagement, plus whatever the percentage was of the 109 billion per year that can be attributed to disengagement. You can bet that that's going to be big bucks too.
Okay, Michael, so you've talked about these soft skills, but what are they?
In 2010, the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development released its report into Using the Head and Heart at Work, a Business Case for Soft Skills. The diagram on your screen shows that some of the differences in the characteristics between soft and hard skills. Now, you can see those there.
Michael, I can see the difference here, but perhaps you could just walk us through some more details.
It's summed up in pretty well in 4 characteristics here. The first one is enable individuals to manage successfully the requirements, challenges and opportunities of their job role. That is, that they're goal-directed and facilitate the resolution of problems encountered or decisions faced in the workplace either by themselves or in combination with the hard skills. For example, find a novel solution, create, negotiate an agreement, resolve. That's one. The next one would be enhance the performance of individuals or teams. Modern workplaces are inherently relational and collaborative. Effective and efficient performance, for example, the generation of implementation of new ideas, relies on cooperation between individuals and subordinates, peers and superiors. Now, thirdly, support the goals of the individual, team or organisation. The effective use of soft skills not only delivers task-related outcomes, for example, service delivery or productivity, but also increases an individual's value in the labour market, for example, through differentiation from other job candidates. Finally, 4, facilitate, support and enhance effective leadership and management behaviours. The possession of relevant soft skills is necessary, but an insufficient condition for effective leadership and management. On a facetious note, you certainly won't want these characteristics pouncing around your workplace soon. You'd be expected to ask people to do a job rather than just tell them.
So what might it look like?
Well, the next diagram rather sets it all up. Now, you can see there's the soft skills of the self, of people and task, and you'll see that they're broken up into soft skills and soft intelligences. Now, again, if you might, moral intuition, really important when it comes to ethics. Now, we've had a look at that, and I've put a more comprehensive list of characteristics criteria into a spreadsheet that you can see here, and hopefully the gremlins won't, gremlins will allow us to bring it up. There we are. Look at that. Now, this is a fairly comprehensive skill. And
that's not working either.
Well, in that case, Sarah, we'll move on, but you'll make this available to people, will you?
Yeah, apologies about that. I will make the list available to you. Sorry about that, Michael. We will just skip straight to the questions if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so we've had a few questions coming in whilst you've been talking, Michael. The first one is, my boss says that soft skills don't get results and he's paying for the results. Is he right?
Perhaps I'd give him a quote. A dark shadow of deep-seated cultural prejudice threatens to limit the competitiveness of his organisation.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, no, he's not right. Hard skills will get you right, will get you results. but hard skills coupled with soft skills will get you much better results.
Okay, and which is more important, hard skills or soft skills, Michael?
Sarah, they're complementary. They're complementary. If it's all just soft skills, you won't have the expertise to achieve what you need to achieve. But given that you've got to do it all through people, you need the soft skills as well. So they're complementary, Sarah.
And can you recruit for soft skills?
Oh, most certainly. And should you recruit for soft skills? Absolutely. If you bring dysfunction in, a lack of soft skills into your workplace, it's like recruiting cancer. It's going to be very, very expensive for you.
Okay, I've got a couple more. Is employee engagement still a workplace issue?
Increasingly so, Sarah, as we find that competitive advantage does occur through people, and the more functional your people are, the better they're engaged and the better the relationships, the better the productivity. So and particularly in this environment, Sarah, it's even more important that staff are fully engaged.
Okay, and I have one last question for you, Michael. The figures in the Pulse survey are frightening. Are they really real?
Yes, they are, but I think they're understated.
Oh.
I really do. I think people can waste a lot more than 18% of their day on activities that don't generate any value. I think those figures are quite conservative rather than overstated.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to wrap it up now. If you do have a question that you didn't get answered, please do feel free to contact us. We do hope you've enjoyed this webinar on soft skills having the hardest consequences, and we look forward to having you join us again soon. Don't forget to send us through your suggestions or any ideas that you have that you would like us to turn into a webinar. We'd love to hear from you. Our contact details are on the screen. You can head to our website, have a look, send us through an email, give us a call, like us on Facebook, and as I mentioned in the beginning, you can watch this webinar and all the previous webinars on our very own Cal YouTube channel. But until next time, thanks for joining. Hope you have a great weekend.
Sarah, thank you for this, and thank you, everybody, and I apologise for my flu germs getting in and bugging the system.
And well done, Michael. Thanks very much. See you next time.